2 years, 2 months, and 28 days ago, my life changed. I attended my very first Toastmasters meeting. That was more than 2 years ago now. I came as a guest to the English Club Oslo speakers. And I used to be this shy, very unconfident person who really wanted to say something, who really wanted to speak, but just lacked the will to do it. Every time he would want to say something, something would get stuck in his throat and he would just stop. And he would never say anything. Now, 2 years, more than 2 years later, everything has changed. Now, this is a different club, but for those of you like Tom Swinner or Sam who have been to our club, they would know that I give a lot of speeches. In fact, I give so many speeches, and I'm a bit narcissistic that I keep a record of how many speeches I have given since I first started. And I counted today. This is my 113th speech since my first icebreaker 2 years ago. That's about one speech every week. Now you would think that if I would give so many speeches in different places, not just in Toastmasters but outside, I must be good. Well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Yeah, I'm a great speaker. I don't need to improve anything more. I have reached my peak. Then I managed to beat Tom Swinner in the contest. I managed to go to the higher level. I reached this district level, which is one of the highest you can go. And I met some really great speakers there. I mean, I was here and they were there. And I realized, no, there is still some way to go. Just a couple of months later, in February of this year, I was attending a Toastmasters conference and I met a professional speaker. His name is Florian Muke, lives in Barcelona. And he's a fellow Toastmaster. He told me, Sam, public speaking is like a mountain without a peak. You can always climb up, but you can never reach that peak. And that really stuck a chord in my heart. Because I always thought that you can achieve perfection, but you cannot achieve perfection as a speaker. Maybe one speech will be good, another one will be bad, but not everything will always be perfect. But we can always try to improve further and further and further. So when I started this path, this is a new educational program, I wanted to try it out, so I took the presentation mastery path, which is more or less focused on public speaking. And my goal was to try something different, try new things and explore different skills that I can try in public speaking. And I would like to share 3 lessons that I have learned in over 15 speeches that I had to give throughout these past few months during this path. But before I do, let me ask you this question. What is the most important thing that you have to take into account when you're preparing a speech?
Purpose.
Purpose? What else?
Your audience.
Your audience. Your audience. You must take into account your audience, who you're speaking to, what is the environment, who are these people, what is their background. Now, I thought I knew this, and I thought I usually take that into account. Turned out to be not true. Now, when we give speeches in Toastmasters, I don't know about you, but since I noticed this, I have been paying special attention to when people speak on stage. We tend to talk about what we want to talk about, not what our audience wants to listen. And that was a problem with me as well. I gave a lot of speeches, but when I look back, I see maybe some of them didn't make sense for that specific audience. And Pathways is a very good thing. In the evaluation forms, they are standardized. So every project has certain criteria that are in every project, every speech. Just a couple of things are new in every project. But one of those things is audience awareness. Did this speech engage the audience? Did it make sense to them? And guess what? For the first 3-4 projects, I got like very low marks from all my evaluators and constant feedback. Zan, your speech is good, content is good, delivery is good, but why should we care? Why should we care about this speech? It's not for us. It's not, maybe it's for some other audience, but not for Toastmasters audience. And I finally realized that this is a problem that I have to deal with. Now I started to pay more attention to who I'm talking about. And speaking, giving more speeches, thinking about what audience is going to be listening to it, I started to change my content, tailor it towards whom I'm talking about. I have given same speeches to different audiences in a different style now. And that worked pretty well. Now, after finishing this part, can I say I'm perfect at it? No, I cannot, because there is no peak to this mountain. I'm still trying. Sometimes I hit the audience correct. I manage to tailor my content exactly to who I'm talking to. Sometimes it doesn't work, and the audience thinks, why is he talking about this in front of us? Doesn't make any sense. And it still happens. And it's going to happen. But my hope is that with over time it will happen less and less. Now the second lesson that I learned through this path was in fact about pathways. In level 4, when you progress a bit, you get very interesting projects. Something that we had never had in Toastmasters ever before. Projects like create a podcast, or create a social media presence, or write a compelling blog. And these are elective projects, so you can choose. And I thought, okay, I will try something new. I will try to write a blog. Now, you may have heard that written word and spoken word are two different things. You write in one way and you speak in another. And that may be true, but when I actually started to write the blog, I had to write 8 posts in just 1 month. I realized that there are actually a lot of similarities between writing a speech or creating a speech and writing a blog post. You should have a message or a purpose. You should structure it well so it makes sense while reading. But you should also engage your reader, just like how you need to engage your audience. You have to introduce some humor, you have to tell some stories, because otherwise they will just move on. They will not read your post. And another thing I learned was a myth that we hear quite often these days, that attention span is going low, so make it short, make it quick. That's more likely to be read. In fact, when I look at those 8 posts and I look at the statistic, how many times those pages were opened and how many people read those specific blog posts, I realized that my most read post is also my longest. Maybe because in that one post I give more value than combined in all the other 7 posts. That's the most likely option. So when there is a content that is compelling, that is written good, and that gives value, people are going to give their time to you and they're going to read it. Be it a speech or a blog or any other medium in which you are communicating. Now the third lesson that I learned was about 2 weeks ago. We give 7-minute speeches in our class. Most of Toastmasters projects are 7-minute speeches. 7 minutes is not a lot of time. You really think about it, you mainly can talk about one point. And what we do usually, and that's a good strategy to do when you have 7 minutes, you focus just on your message and you just hammer it down so that it stays in people's mind. That's all you have to do in 7 minutes. But in real life, when you're a professional, you don't give 7-minute speeches. Sometimes you give 20-minute speeches. Sometimes you give 40-minute speeches. Sometimes you give 1-hour-long keynotes. And that's a bit different. Now, we had this old educational program with this advanced manuals, and one of them was this professional speaking something. And one of the projects in there is to give a keynote speech for 20 minutes. And I did this last year in our club. I chose a topic that I had already given in the past because I thought this is a perfect speech for a keynote. I took it from 7 minutes, made it longer, tried as hard as possible to make it longer, just managed to make it 15 minutes. And I gave it in our club. I got good feedback, but when I look back at it and I read in detail what happened, it was simply not engaging. It was just stories. I just added more stories on top of it to make it longer, but it didn't make any sense. Probably because I'm not that great a storyteller to keep it engaging throughout 15-20 minutes. It's not enough to just focus on your message when you are talking so long. And again, in this part, there is a mandatory project you have to do at level 5, which is to give a keynote speech, which must be about 20 minutes long. And this time I decided to approach it in a different way. I will not take something that I have already done, I will create something new. But more importantly, it's not just about one message that I want to give to people, I must give some value. I decided to model it if I were giving a TED Talk. Now you have listened to TED Talks. There is one thing common in all TED Talks. They try to give some value to the audience. Usually these are the people that are experts in their field, they talk about it, and they tell something new that you can take away. Or in some cases, they inspire you to do something better with your life in that specific area. So I thought, okay, I will try to do something similar. I took public speaking as my topic, because I'm talking to a bunch of Toastmasters who are working on it. Plus, I have an experience to share. So I look back at my blog, what I had written. I look back all the things and techniques that I have picked up from different people and from Toastmasters and from other places, and put it together in a simple way that people could instantly pick up and use. And I gave that, but I also included some message that you have to think about your speech not as a speech, not just as a speech. You have to think about as an opportunity to change the world. Now that's the inspiring part of that keynote. When I read the feedback, it was overwhelmingly positive, especially about the part which was about techniques about public speaking that you can use in your speeches. So when people get something that they can instantly use, they will appreciate it. Even if you don't see in the audience because they are listening to you, you may see that they are not interested, but in fact, this is the point where they are the most happy because they finally got something new, especially in our Toastmasters environment. So when you're giving a keynote speech, you must give value as well as your message. And I'm going to do the same. Now I will take the same speech that I gave in our club a couple of weeks ago. I am going to extend it to 45 minutes and give it as a workshop in the division conference that is going to happen in Krakow in 1 month. So you're all welcome to come and see how it goes there. So these are the 3 lessons that I wanted to share regarding what I learned in this path. Can I say that after finishing this presentation mastery path, now I am a presentation master? Now I am a great speaker? Now I can go anywhere and speak? Not really. Because what Florian said, that public speaking is a mountain without a peak. And I am much closer to the top, but I am still not at the top. And I will never be at the top, but all I can do is just keep climbing as far